listen up. This is the Music Scene Podcast. I am your host, Dave Cudrak. Today on the podcast, we have an incredible musician out of London, or I should say the London area. His name is Sam French. I got to tell you, we didn't know each other prior to this conversation, but this conversation plays out like just two old friends in a bar or in a pub and just talking about music and talking about what makes great guitar players great, what makes good songs. I mean, we cover pretty much everything. And this man knows what he's talking about. He's a great player. He's a great teacher. Funny as hell. You know, we cover a lot of topics. We talk about life as a full-time musician and everything that entails, all the different things you kind of need to do in order to make music your full-time gig. Talk a little bit about the scene over there in the UK. Talked about many different guitar players in this episode. I'm sure we're going to talk about somebody that you like or who's one of your influences. So here it is, my conversation with Sam French. For those listening who might not know who you are, I had gotten, I've been in touch with Tomo Fujita for a few weeks. And I was asking him if he knew of anybody who he could recommend to possibly be on my podcast. He recommended maybe 5 or 6 other players, and you were one of them. So I reached out, and I appreciate you responding and agreeing to do the podcast. I guess my first kind of question is, how do you know Tomo? Have you been to Berkeley? Have you jammed with him? Like, tell me about that.
That's a funny one. It was really sweet actually when you sent that message. I got that. Just being recommended by Tomo is really nice because basically I've never met him in person.
Okay.
And a few years ago, because I've been trying the Instagram thing for a few years and stuff like that. And then a few years ago, like I didn't really have many followers, maybe like a few hundred.
Mm-hmm.
And then I followed Tomo, like a lot of people. Just I watched his YouTube stuff, and I'm a big John Mayer guy, so obviously there's all that.
Yep,
connection.
me too.
So I followed Tomo, and then just randomly, like the next day, he followed me back.
Nice.
And that was like the first person of like significant person. Do you know what I mean? That had like followed me back or shown interest because obviously like he's a really big name in the social media guitar world and just in guitar education and stuff like that. And I think because at the time I was pushing quite a lot of teaching stuff, which I'm still doing, and we'll probably get into that. But I remember messaging him being like, "Oh, hey, thanks for following me back. I mean, wow, that's really nice." And then occasionally he would like share the odd post and things, which was really sweet. So he would like say I posted a lesson video, he put it on the story and things like that. And I've messaged him in the past about advice and been like, "Okay, any advice on getting more students or growing this and things like that." And he was just always super friendly and supportive. And I've asked him before, like, why are you helping? Like, it's nice and I'm grateful, but I'm just a random guy. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
I was like, what? And his thing was like, I like what you're doing, and it's nice to see someone like young, like teaching and working on, trying to educate people on it. And he just wanted to help, like, promote that a little bit. And then I think over the last couple years, he's sort of just been a quiet voice in the background that will occasionally comment and do stuff like this just out of nowhere. And like I texted him the other day and was just like, "Oh, I got my," like he posted a video about like things he loves about Stratocasters. So then
I saw that. Yep.
My new Strat, and was like, "Oh, dude, like look at this," and he was like, "Oh, I love it." So we just kind of have that, but we've never hung out. I mean, if I've said to him like several times, like if you come to London, we've got to go for a coffee or a jam.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
And I've got a couple friends that I've made since, like Japanese guitarists.
Okay.
And they've met him a couple of times and things like that. So yeah, it's really cool, man. Tomo's lovely. He's really cool. I can't say I know him super well, but we're like Instagram
Yeah, me too. I reached out to him because I've been following him for years. Like you, I'm a big John Mayer guy, and I know for those listening who don't know who Tomo is, he works at Berkeley. He's a professor at Berkeley School of Music in the guitar department, and at one point, John Mayer was his student. So if you know John Mayer, you know Tomo.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
And it was really interesting actually because on his profile on his Instagram page, I think the first pinned thing on his post is an article about him from Guitar World.
Hmm.
Like Guitar World or Guitarist magazine, I can't remember, something like that. Total Guitar, and the article on there was written by my personal tutor at university because I went to
Oh,
university
cool.
at it's sort of like it's called BIM. I would say it's the British equivalent of Berkeley. It's not. It's a bit rubbish. But like, if Berkeley's amazing, BIM wasn't. BIM was like the budget version, but it was all right. But all the teachers were amazing. But as an institute, it wasn't great. But they yeah, the head guitar there, or my main guitar teacher, is a guy called John Wheatcroft, who's like the most amazing gypsy jazz guitar player. I mean, he's a master at everything.
Right.
To me, he's like the Yoda of guitar. You know what I mean, like I've had one-to-one lessons with him since, and we stay in touch. And like the guy, I'll just sit down with him for an hour, have a lesson, and then I've got like 6 months of just
Yeah, yeah.
it's just happened. So John did an article on Tomo, and I'm not sure if he interviewed him. I can't remember. And then like they had a brief conversation kind of thing. And then yeah, it was weird like talking to each of them, being like, Tomo, that's my old guitar teacher. And he was like, "Oh," there's just like a weird small world moment. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
really like, oh, what are the chances? Do you know what I mean? So yeah, that was really cool. So there seems to be these weird connections. And the other weird thing with me and Tomo is I think his manager is called Sam French. So
Oh, really?
I don't know if he originally followed me thinking I was his manager, not that, and then has just stuck around. I don't know, but like I'm 99% sure his manager is called Sam French. So
That's
yeah,
hilarious.
that was funny. Yeah, you're a big John Mayer guy because we've not
Hmm.
really spoken or gotten to know each other, and obviously I've
No,
seen
not at
you
all.
got the Fender jumper and the Strat behind. So what's
Right.
your sort of background with guitars and stuff?
So my background, I'm not a I mean I'm a semi-professional musician. I am the solo acoustic cover guy that plays in the pubs and the wineries and things like that. But I also, this podcast is relatively new. I started it in October. And the numbers are going up every month, which is great. It's growing in popularity, and I'm getting higher profile guests such as yourself. And fingers crossed, Tomo will be on it one of these days.
Amazing, yeah, as well.
But yeah, but my journey really starts. I've always been a guitar player. Back in the day, I used to be a heavy metal thrash guy, and I have my Les Paul, I have my SG, and then I'd say over the last like maybe 15 to 20 years, I discovered John Mayer, and then John Mayer turned me on to, not obviously not, I've never met him or anything, but listening to John Mayer and learning about him, I've learned about Stevie Ray Vaughan and Jimi Hendrix. Not that I didn't know who they were, but I was never real big fans of those growing up. And then
Yeah,
I was like, well, let me give them an extra listen. So I fell into that John Mayer, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Jimi Hendrix, and other players like him. So yeah, I'm a big like Fender guy now, where I used to be all Gibson. I still love my Gibsons, but I play mostly my Strat now.
I constantly go through that. I mean, it's interesting you said about the way John Mayer was your entry point into that stuff, because I think for a lot of people in 21st century, it is John Mayer that is that entry point into like what I'd call like Fender blues. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like that
Yep.
sort of thing. Because I was the same. I didn't grow up on blue. I grew up on like rock and when I was at school, I was very much into metal and stuff. I
Hmm.
started playing when I was a little kid. And then one of my teachers, we had school chaplain. I'm not like a religious dude or anything, but we had a school chaplain, right? But he was like this youngish bloke, and we were just talking about music and stuff. And he was like the cool school chaplain that would like listen to AC/DC. Do you know what I mean? So he's like school chaplain would listen to Highway to Hell and stuff.
Hmm.
Great. And then he one time, I think I must have been about 13, 14, was like talking to someone about John Mayer and like live in LA. So when was this? 2000. So this was about like 2009, 2010. So it's a couple of years after the Live in LA thing and
Okay.
continuing on that. Um, and he was talking about it because him and one of my mates went to see them separately, went to see him. And that kind of turned me onto it. And then I discovered him and got into it. And then I got my first Fender Strat. So I had like Strat copies, but that was when I got my first like actual Fender, and it was a Mexican Strat, candy apple red.
Yeah, this is Mexican too. I have my American made in a case, but this is my Mexican one. Yep.
They're great, and I would show it to you, but I sold it yesterday. Funny enough. And then that's the story that was about as well. But yeah, I got that, and then from John Mayer, I was the exact same as you. That opened the door to the blues stuff. Do you know what I mean? And obviously, I loved like Slash and all that. And my biggest guitar hero since I was a kid is Steve Vai.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Since I was, because my guitar teacher when I was a kid was a big Steve Vai fan. Was American actually. He was a guy called Damon St. James. I don't know if he's out there doing music or not, but shout out to Damon. If he is. Incredible guitar player, played a lot of flamenco and stuff. But yeah, through him I'd heard of like Stevie and people like that, but never gone into it. We went down the Satriani Vi route.
Sure.
And then yeah, like you said, John Mayer, and then that led to Stevie. And I think anyone that likes that John Mayer bluesy side of it, you listen to Stevie and you go, well, this is the best. Do you know what I mean? Like
that's the top of the mountain.
I was teaching a kid the other day, Little Wing, but Stevie version, and just saying like that guitar tone, it's got to be the most like replicated or like the most discussed guitar tone. Like all anyone wants to do is get that tone, that Austin City Limits, the Strat, the Dumble or the Twin, and the True Screamer. Everyone wants it. So everyone wants it. No one could do it. No one's ever gotten because you can't replicate hands. Do
Right.
You know what I mean? You can't take his hands. That's it, right?
Yep.
But yeah, so from there, and then as I've got into people like Joe Bonamassa and stuff like that. And then obviously I've always liked Hendrix, but really this year has been like my Hendrix year, like 2025. This is the year I've gotten into him, and it's only recently that like I've been listening to Band of Gypsies a lot and those sorts of thing, and really taking in like Machine Gun. And one of my friends, Sam, is a massive Hendrix fan. A lot of people have probably seen him online for the Hendrixy stuff, but he's recommended certain gigs or fuzz faces and things over time, and given me he's sort of like my go-to if I've got Hendrix questions. But yeah, I'm really getting into him, which then leads to the new Strat that we started talking about right at the beginning.
Yeah.
So I do some demos and stuff for work, and I was demoing some guitars last year for a guitar shop called Coda Music in Stevenage in the UK. They're like a really top, like high-end guitar store in the UK. I think at one point they were like the biggest Fender custom shop dealer in Europe and stuff like that. There's not many budget guitars in there. Do you know what I mean? It's like a land.
Yeah, sure.
Go in, it's just like custom shop heaven.
Yep.
I was dangerous demoing in there because then you pick stuff up. You're like, oh, my Mexican Strat at home, and then I'm getting handed like master built Strats. The other day there was like a 1952 like ES 175 in there. I was like, oh. I played the Strat because I'm when it comes to guitars, I'm very much like. I think guitars have a thing. I mean, what do you think about it? Like when you pick up a guitar that you really like, I think they've got a thing about them that you can't describe. It's not
exactly. Agreed. And like you, I'm not a religious like spiritual guy, but somehow a guitar can speak to you and it'll never stop talking until you take it home.
Right. Exactly. Whereas some guitars you pick up, like I've picked up friends' guitars where they're like, this is their guitar. And when they play it, it's sick. But then when I play it, I'm like, but it's just whatever. Like I've tried so hard to get into like 335s, semi-hollows, hollows, Collins guitars, Gibson guitars, Gretsch guitars, and I love them, and I want to be able to have one, but I just don't. I don't play on it. I don't have to explain it. Do you know what I mean? Pick it up, and I don't.
I understand 100%.
Yeah. And I don't know if it's because I've not really ever been a big fan of any particular guitar player that used one. You know what I mean? I think maybe because I know so much of like what a Strat is.
Right.
Or what a Les Paul is, or an SG, or, you know, like I've got an Ibanez Pia, like the Steve Vai things. I mean, it's like, I pick it up and I'm like, well, it makes me want to go here.
Yeah.
But on like a 335, I just sort of like floating. I don't know what to do. But yeah, so I demoed this Strat last year and a few others, and I was like, that's the best Strat I've ever played. I mean, it didn't even play great. The action was like that high.
Oh, really? Okay.
But it just was like, oh my god, this
Yeah.
guitar is nuts. It was way out of price range. I was like, I'm just gonna dream about it, you know. And then I've recently been going through a bit of a change of perspective with my gear and sort of stuff and having things. And um, do you ever watch a YouTube channel or podcast called The 5 Watt World?
No, I'll look it
Right.
up though. I'm gonna write
Yeah,
it down.
it's
5 Watt
the
World.
5 Watt World. I can't remember the guy's name, but what's his slogan? His slogan is something like helping you make the most music with the least gear, or
Oh, cool.
like that.
Yep.
And I found out about him through, I think, Rhett Scholl. I think
Oh
his
yeah, I know Rhett's YouTube
yeah.
channel. He used to be Rick Beato's producer, and then he went on and made his
Oh,
own
I didn't
channel.
know that.
Yeah.
Oh, so
Yep.
was he with Rick when they first launched that
Yeah,
channel?
when Rick Beato first started his YouTube, Rhett Scholl was Rick Beato's like producer, the guy behind the camera, and then eventually his channel got big enough, he went on and did his own. Yep,
Wow, that's really interesting. I didn't know that. Oh,
yep,
because Rhett's really cool. I mean, I'd love to meet Rhett one day. I've never
me too.
spoken
Yeah.
to him, but he's a really cool dude.
Hmm.
And I like that he's not like in your face with the guitar playing. His is
Right.
more like informative. Like I like that. You sort of learn something.
Yep. Yep.
Um, but yeah, so I was watching some of his videos and some of 5 Watt World, and this idea of like having fewer things but better things.
Sure.
I quite like reading like a lot of again, I'm not like spiritual religious, but I quite like philosophy and sort of like trying to. I mean, I'm 30 next year, so as you get closer to that point, you start thinking about what's my views on this or perspective. Do you know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yep.
The perspective changes, and that idea of like, I just want things that are 10 out of 10 or 9 out of 10.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Across the board in life,
Yep.
whether it's, I was watching a thing on minimalism, and it was like, even going through a wardrobe, like if that outfit or jumper or whatever isn't 9
Right.
out of 10, 10 out of 10,
Yep.
get rid of it. You don't
So,
need it.
but it's we have a lot in common because I occasionally watch this guy Gabe Bolt on YouTube. He is a bit of a minimalist guy. First name Gabe and then last name Bult. And I first found him because of like minimalism, and he talks about he basically wears jeans and a black T-shirt every day, so his closet is full
This
of
is the
like.
guy. This is the
Is it the
guy.
guy? Is it?
Yeah, this is the guy. For the 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 thing. This is the guy. Yeah. That's the guy. That's so funny. That's so funny. Because I got to him through Matt Diavella. If you ever watched Matt Diavella's YouTube channel.
I don't think I know Matt.
Oh,
Yeah,
you've got to check out Matt. Matt,
I will.
Matt, and then D apostrophe AVELLA. He's got a massive channel on minimalism. Massive.
Okay.
I got him through that. So yeah, I love all that. So then I've tried to approach that to my guitars.
Mhm.
And like, so I look at my guitars and I think at Christmas I probably had 12, 13 guitars, something like that. Which obviously, like, to some people that's ridiculous, and to other people that's modest,
Yeah,
Joe
sure.
got a massive with 12 guitars, he'd be like, what's happened?
Yep.
But they weren't all necessarily ones that I would want to pick up every day. Do you know what I mean? Because I play every day, I'm fortunate enough to play every day for work. Like, you want to pick up the one. Do you know what I mean? Like, you want to play
Yeah.
every day, and it's like when it's your job, I almost feel like you need that to be excited. Do you know what I mean? Every day because it's like going to it's like your office. My guitar is like my office. So if you go
Right.
to an
Sure.
office where you hate it and it's just like four blank walls, you're gonna be miserable. If you go to a nice, cozy office with a nice desk and coffee machine, you go, oh, this is great. That's what the guitar is, right?
Mhm.
So I've obviously got like a couple of a nice guitar. Though I'm very fortunate to have all of them. They're all lovely, but they weren't all 10 out of 10. They were
Yep.
maybe one or two 6 out of 10 or 7 or 10
Mhm.
out of 10. And I had some mid-range one. I had a couple of Japanese Fenders. They were fine, but like, and they needed better pickups and all that stuff.
Yep.
And it was like, I'm gonna start selling them. That thing of like the stuff you own starts to own you a little bit.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Creeped
Yep.
in. I felt a
Mhm.
little bit of that. And yeah, I thought, I'm gonna start clearing out some stuff. And sometimes I think that's good for your head, right? Just to like clear out your space. I mean, the room we're in now is like my office lounge area. And sometimes I'll just start purging stuff
Okay.
just to clear your mind. Do you know what I mean? I think it's healthy
Yeah.
to be like, I haven't used that. That can
Right.
go. That
Yep.
desk is wonky. That can go. I don't need that.
Mhm. Yep.
Um, So I find that,
and it's rare. It's rare that you miss something. You know, like you finally purge it after like a year of not using it or whatever, and then it's very rare where you're like, oh, I wish I didn't throw that away or donate it or whatever. You know.
exactly,
Yep.
and especially if it's like to improve, right?
Mm-hmm.
The thing I wanted to have things that are just special.
Yep.
So last year I got a custom shop Les Paul, which was really really cool. Let me grab it out. It's behind me.
Yeah, please. I'd love to see it. Yep.
So it's again, I was in the shop doing some demos and things like that, and then I just picked this one up off the wall. It wasn't the most expensive one. It wasn't the cheapest one. It was just like
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's beautiful.
yeah, it's lovely. It was a custom
Nice.
shop, 1958, VOS. So it's not. There's none of the Murphy Lab relic stuff.
Okay. Yep.
Don't want to upset anyone at Gibson, but I don't like Murphy Lab guitars. Rubbish. Story for another day. Oh, right there. Yes, I played that, and that guitar was really special. One where you pick up and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it is. It just, even the guys in the shop were like, "You sound better on that." Because I wanted a nice Les Paul because I'd never had
Yeah.
one. I had a Epiphone, but I'd never had a Gibson.
Mm-hmm.
Gibson Les Paul, and I thought, well, let me get a standard.
Yep.
Something the standard. And I played them, and they were nice, but I struggled to justify the price on the standard stuff, whether
Sure.
it's Fender or Gibson.
Mm-hmm.
I think for the price, which in the UK you're between, for a standard range Gibson is between £2,000 and £2,500.
Right.
But because it's, assuming in the States it's a bit less because it's not overseas.
Yeah. It's not much less.
Really? No.
Yeah.
Yeah, we won't be going to the Gibson pricing thing because I love Gibson as a product, but I'm not a fan of Gibson as a company.
Right.
Like I think most of the guitar world feels like that at the moment. But yeah, I played that custom shop, and it wasn't that much more to the point where you go, "Well, that's insane." Do you know what I mean? It wasn't double, put it that way.
Right.
But to me, it felt twice as good. It had a feeling, and it's not in an arrogant way. But when people say, "Oh, I don't get why you spend the money," like whether it's going from an Epiphone to a Gibson or going from a standard range to a custom shop, or even then when people in the bigger levels go from custom shop to vintage.
Right.
It's like if you can't tell the difference, then the guitar's just not for you.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Which is fine. It doesn't mean that it's not worth that money. It just means that to that person, that upgrade isn't worth it, right?
Sure.
And it doesn't mean they're not as good of a player or anything, but for me, that little extra 5% is quite a big deal.
Yeah, absolutely.
That brings out the best part of my playing because it is my job. If it wasn't my job, then it probably wouldn't matter, right?
Right. Yep.
So then I had that. So once I got that, I was like, I don't want to play anything else. So it's 10 out of 10. Like, I'm here and I've got these guitars. I just don't want to play them.
Yep.
But then I've been selling stuff and trading stuff. So then I wanted the Strat to go with the Les Paul, right?
Sure.
You're going to have the 10 out of 10 Les Paul, you've got a 10 out of 10 Strat. So then last week, I went to Coda Music and they let me use the back room and I just picked off a dozen, 15 Strats, custom shop Strats.
Nice.
I tried some standard ones. There was the Virginia Eric Johnson Strat. The rep probe is 54. Wasn't a fan, to be honest. I just think once you're used to the custom shop ones and the Relicing's obviously a big deal. I mean, what's your view on Relicing on the guitar ones?
When I first saw it, I was like, why are people spending so much money for a guitar that looks beat up? But then I saw a few in person because I like to go to Nashville at least once a year and just, look around all the different shops and take in all the music and everything. But once I saw them in person and I played them, I was like, okay, yeah, I kind of get it.
That's it, isn't it? Right. When you play it, even the Les Paul, it's like VOS, so it's got there's no wear on it, but it feels old, do you know what I mean? It does have a different feel to that super new thing. When you start playing the Relic ones, there is a resonance. I don't know, maybe there's less wood or something. Sorry, less paint.
Yep.
There is a resonance.
Yep.
So I went through all these Strats and then just kept going back to this Strat I demoed last year. So this is it. So I traded in 4 guitars and a ukulele.
Wow.
To get it. So it's a custom shop.
Nice.
Black heavy Relic over Aztec gold, so it has the black phase away.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's really cool, right?
Yeah,
based on a 62, so it's supposed to be like a 62 type thing.
Yep.
how well that sounds.
It's got a great sound. Got a great sound.
It sounds amazing, man. But it's it's 62 heavy relic, and it just it just does a. It's got like a magic to it, right? It's one of those things where you can't put it into words. And it's got whatever that thing is that makes you go for the whole week. I was like, I've got to find a way.
Yeah, that was
other guitars that were sentimental have now been like they can go because it's just so good.
Yep. I have a similar story. So this past August, my girlfriend and I were in Nashville. We went to a place called Gruen Guitar, which is relatively famous around the city. Not as famous as Carter's Vintage, but Gruen is probably second most famous. Anyway, we're there. I had no intentions on buying a guitar, none whatsoever, you know. And you know, we're in there, we're looking around. She was in the market for an acoustic guitar. She ended up with a Martin OM21. But while she's looking, I saw this guitar kind of out of the corner of my eye. It's a Fender Strat, and I'm a sucker for natural finishes. So I saw this, and I was like, "What is that?" And I picked it up, and it was the greatest guitar I've ever played. Like me personally, you know, and it was way out of budget, and I'm like, I can't afford this, but I couldn't put it down. And then I'm fiddling around with it the whole time. She's playing like a whole bunch of different guitars because she had intended on buying one. So we're there for hour and a half, and I won't put this guitar down. I just keep fiddling with it. And then finally she's like, I think I like this one, but I want to take a day to think about it because it's a lot of money. And I was like, fair enough. I was like, if I hold this guitar anymore, I'm going to buy it. So let's get out of here. Later on that night, we're at dinner, and she's like, are you okay? You seem a little like distant. Like what's like something's on your, I'm like, I can't stop thinking about that guitar, you know? So long story short, yesterday, the day after, she went back to get hers, and then the one salesman recognized us from the day before, and he's like, "You back for that Fender?" And I'm like, "Yeah, probably." He's like, "You want to plug it in this time?" And I'm like, "Yeah."
So you even plugged it in. Wow.
I didn't even plug it in.
Wow.
So I ended up getting, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's the Michael Landau signature model. It's called the Fender Coma, and oh my God, it's unbelievable. And I bought it. I put it on the credit card, and I was like, I guess I got to book a few more shows to pay this thing off.
But people don't get it. People look at it as impulsive, but I think because it's like, I can only compare it to like meeting someone in a bar. Like imagine you're in a bar and you meet a girl, and you're like, "Oh, if that's what people," and then you're there, and you're like, I can't stop thinking about that girl from last night. Like, I need to find out what's her name. What's her name? That's what it's like.
It is.
Like, I've got to have that guitar. And some guitars have songs in them. I don't know if you found that where like you'll pick up a guitar.
A little bit, yeah, a little bit.
You play a chord pattern you've never played before. And you're like, or you just pick it up, and you just play a riff, and you're like,
or you play chords that you know, but they sound completely different for some reason.
For sure, mate, it's crazy. My only hesitation with the Strat, and it's my only issue with Strats is I find sometimes I struggle to find individual Strat because I've grown up with so many iconic like Strat players.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah,
it's really hard to not pick up a Strat and play like Stevie, John Mayer, whoever else, right? You know, it's so hard to pick it up and not just put it in E flat and start doing. So as much as I can, I pick it up and try and think about Eric Johnson because I think that's
there you go. Yep.
Yeah, if I can play Eric Johnson, then I'll never complain.
Right.
And no one sounds like Eric. Whereas on the Les Paul, I feel more free. I think maybe because it's less of the Les Paul is like you can kind of mold it. Do you know what I mean? You can.
I think. I mean, coming from my background, being like a hard rock, heavy metal guy when I was a teenager, like the Les Paul, you can crank up the gain or distortion and just do whatever the heck you want, and it all sounds great.
For sure. But with the Strat, I'm like, I want to play like that thing. I want to They're trying really hard to not just play blues licks on Strat. It's difficult. But yeah, what's your like day job like with life and stuff like?
So,
you use it full time or what's your?
No. So I wish, and maybe this podcast and my gigs will get me to that point. At some point, but I work a regular Monday through Friday full time job. but yeah, I do music on the weekends. I play 3 to 4 gigs a weekend. I host an open mic every 2 weeks. You know, I've got this podcast. I'm trying to build a little bit of a following on YouTube and stuff. I'm not monetized on any of the social platforms yet, but my following's growing. I've got somewhere around 5,000 followers on like Facebook and 3,000 on Instagram. You know, so those are my biggest platforms.
Yeah.
But yeah, so music's definitely a hobby. Well, I say it's a hobby because I don't do it full time, but the goal is to eventually do some form of music full time. You
Yeah.
know,
I
and
think
we'll
that
see.
it's a lifelong thing, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It is.
That's one of those things where, as you get older and you sort of start to learn to like live with it almost,
Hmm.
rather than just being 17 and thinking, I want to be Slash. Yeah, you sort of learn like, well, how does it fit into life? Do you know what I mean? It's
Right.
like a companion kind of thing.
Yep.
Because you'll never be without it. And I've done jobs where I've done loads of jobs, do you know what I mean? And different
Hmm.
careers and things and it's sort of always there. And even if it wasn't my main job now, then I would still be doing it. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
I'm still
Sure.
finding a way to be doing it. And like when I've done other jobs, I've always sort of felt the need to then when you meet people and you're like, oh, I'm Sam, I work in X, Y, and Z, but
Mhm.
I'm a musician, really. You know what I mean? It's
Yep.
like you have to go, well,
Yep.
but then if you're working 40 hours a week doing something else, but then do one guitar lesson and post a video on Instagram every other week. It's
Mhm.
like, well, are you, or you just guy that plays guitar in a room? I think what you're
Right.
doing is proactive, and you are making like your spare time about music.
Right.
So I think like it's validated. Do you know what I mean? You're not wasting
Absolutely.
it. You're not
Right.
wasting. You
Absolutely.
don't need to do it 40 hours a week for it to be
Right.
an important part of your life. It's
Hmm.
just um, as long as you're involved in it and doing it your way and you're working to grow it and make it as
Yep.
big as it is. Because I think whatever you do with it, like there's never a finish line. You never go,
Right.
I've got 10,000 followers or whatever, or
Yep. Yep.
I hit a million views or whatever. This is great. There you go. I'm
Hmm.
done. That's it.
Right. Right. There's no end to it. It's a lifelong pursuit
Yeah.
for
And
sure.
I think that's
Yep.
what makes it enjoyable, right? I think
Hmm.
that's why I say, like, students, I'm like, there's no, like, however much you learn, there'll always be more that you don't know.
Right. Right. And the more you learn, the more you realize there's a lot more stuff you don't.
Yeah, exactly. Which I think is quite rewarding, right? I think
Hmm. Yeah.
it keeps
Yep.
it going. I mean, there's always that thing of like people who don't know a lot think they know everything, and then people that know a lot realize that they don't know anything. And it,
Hmm. Yep. Yep.
yeah, there is a lot of that in the guitar world and any
Sure.
world, do you know what I mean? But
Yep. Yep.
um, I think it's cool that you're trying lots of different things, and I think that's the sort of key to it. It's like diversity, isn't it?
I
Like
think so too. Yeah. Yep.
doing different things.
Yep.
Whereabouts are you based?
I'm in southern New Jersey, so I am. We're more of a suburb of Philadelphia than New York. Like
Cool.
Philadelphia is closer than New York is. I'm about. In fact, the company that I work for is based in Philadelphia. So,
Okay.
um, yeah, and yeah, we've got a nice music scene here. That's why the podcast is called The Music Scene with Dave Kudrak, because I'm trying to shed a little bit more of a spotlight on this particular scene. There's so many talented musicians,
Yeah.
both original musicians or cover musicians, and it's almost I felt like it was a shame that nobody really knew who they were. So this podcast started with me just kind of interviewing my friends. So, like the local bars, restaurants, venues could get to know that person and maybe book them for a show. Or maybe there's a record studio here that wants to set them up for recording, which has kind of happened a couple times, which is awesome. So, you know, it's bringing the community together more so we can all kind of help each other grow at once. You know, that's where I'm at right now with the podcast and the reason for launching it.
Nice. That's really cool. I think
Thanks.
where I am, because we're not far out of London. We're maybe well, I grew up in a town called Watford, which is just like outside London, sort of like a
Hmm.
not really a suburb, it's just like a town outside.
Yep.
Um, but where we are now, we're about an hour from London on the train,
Okay.
and
Hmm.
and London's obviously got this huge music scene. I mean, I think being in the UK, because I've wondered like, oh, would I rather live abroad somewhere? Would I rather where would you go? And I've got friends that have lived in Nashville and worked in Nashville and places like that, and it's quite clicky and it's not as open as it looked on the outside. I mean,
Yep.
from what I've heard, it looks like
I've
an amazing
I've heard that from other people I've interviewed as well who are in Nashville currently. They say the same thing. Yep.
Yeah. So I thought, well, I'll knock that, and then you look at London, and there's just so much like diverse stuff going on, so many opportunities, and so
Mm-hmm.
many gigs, and also companies. Because I work, like, a lot of my stuff has been trying, especially over the last couple of years, to get into the guitar industry, not
Mm-hmm.
specifically music or artistry, but like working with guitar brands and things like that.
Yep.
There's just so many people based in London, like so,
Right.
or in the UK, or even in close, whether it's nearby in France or Germany or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
There's big distributors. Obviously, Toman in Europe is like a massive one. That's sort of like the European version of Sweetwater,
Oh, okay. Yep.
which is huge. Um, so I thought like London's actually really great, but I find that I almost have the opposite issue to what you have, where there's so many people doing it around London or whatever that it's really hard to filter through the rubbish.
Oh, okay.
Where it's not that there's a shortage of artists or
Mm-hmm.
musicians, it's like there's an abundance of people that are just hobbyists and stuff, and that's fine, which is
Mm-hmm.
great. And I would encourage everyone to go out and play music. But when you're then trying to start projects, whether it's a band or like recently, I've been setting up like some wedding duos and things like
Oh,
that,
nice.
cover
Mm-hmm.
things just for extra money, and it's like finding people of a certain experience is
Mm-hmm.
difficult. And I think
Yeah.
that's across the board in any industry, isn't it, at the moment?
Sure. Sure. Yep.
But
Yep.
because London's so saturated with creativity and music and people, it's like, wow,
Mm-hmm.
finding people that can walk the walk, if you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
not just put on Instagram like, new music, I paid for promotion, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
It's not. There's no backing to it. It's like I
Right.
picked up a garage band in lockdown, wrote a couple of songs, and now I'm an artist. It's like, well, it's like me getting a pen and pencil, drawing stick man, saying I'm a. It doesn't make me an artist. Do you know what I mean? It just makes me a dude with a pen and a pencil. Like it
Yep. Yep.
doesn't mean anything. So that I found that a little bit tricky, but aside from that, the UK's got a really cool scene for it, and especially up north. I don't go up north very often, but like
Mhm.
Manchester, Liverpool,
Okay.
Leeds, up in Scotland, Newcastle. There's a guy here at the moment called Sam Fender,
Mhm.
who's huge. He's in Newcastle, and there's like a really cool music scene up there. Really
Oh,
cool.
okay. Nice.
Um,
Have you ever met or talked to or heard of a guitar player out there in the UK? He's originally from Greece. His name is Dimitris Loizos. He's
no,
no, okay. You should look him up, or I'll send you his profile.
yeah, please do.
He's on Instagram, and I guess he's on all the platforms really, but I think Instagram is his main. He's a blues guitar player. I interviewed him maybe a month or so ago, and he's a really interesting dude and incredible blues player. Does a lot of like slow blues type stuff.
Yeah.
His playing's very reminiscent of Gilmour, David Gilmour. In my opinion, it's great. So yeah, look him up, or I'll send you his profile. But he's an interesting guy, originally from Greece, and he was saying the same thing about the UK scene, like plenty of opportunities. He booked his own show and managed to sell it out. But with playing live nowadays, it's more and more difficult to make money.
Mm.
But yeah, he's an interesting guy. I'll shoot you his information.
Yeah, for sure. I think
Um,
that thing of playing live and selling out your own show and things like that, I'm trying to do more of that and take the pressure off it from financially. Because it's easy
mhm.
to be like, oh, I would do this gig, but it doesn't pay X, Y, and Z, so I
Right.
don't want to do it. At the same time, you don't want to be used and have the
Mhm.
whole exposure, come do this gig, and then it's wasted time and you spent
Yep.
fuel money and train money
Mhm.
and you got nothing out of it.
Right.
For things that give you an opportunity to be creative, like next week, I'm playing in the house band for like a jam night at a cocktail bar. It's called the Caravan Live. It's in Shoreditch in London.
Mhm.
And a friend of mine just reached out, he's a drummer. I was like, trying to play in the house band for this evening. The money's not amazing, but there's nothing to prep. It's entirely improvised. It's like a creative thing where people can dance or
Oh,
do
cool.
this and get up and jam. And it's basically like, let's just get a bunch of creative people together and just see what happens.
Yep.
And I was like, "Do you know what? Yeah, like, because that's not, like, I'd want to go to that anyway. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, I want to play it. So if I get to play all night, my food and drinks covered, get a little bit of spare change as well
Yep.
after. Well,
Yep.
why not? That's what it's about, right?
Yeah.
Versus if someone says, "Can you play at my wedding?" It's a different story, right?
Sure. Sure.
Then that's really a job, you
Right.
know.
Yep.
So trying to differentiate what's a live opportunity for playing versus money is difficult, especially like I said when you don't know who you're playing with. Sometimes, like when it's like someone like that reaches out and it's someone that I know has got serious credibility and
Mhm.
isn't going to be wasting my time playing with other musicians that aren't, experienced on that.
Right.
You think, yeah, this is worth it. But when you're just on Facebook groups and people are like, let's start a band, I don't know, I've never heard you sing. Well, I don't know what your background is. Like,
Right. Right.
because from teaching, I've found lately that people's knowledge is incredibly patchy. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Okay.
I've had so many students where I even saw it when I was at university doing music. Like, I've had people turn up for a lesson, and the first thing they do is play like the tap and a lick from Eruption. You're like,
Sure.
whoa, you're like, whoa, okay, sick. You're
Mhm.
like 12 years old and you've learned Eruption, bang it. Okay, all right, cool. So play me third fret on the B string. They're like, what's the B string? You know what I mean? And
Yeah. Yep.
it's all this random things, or someone would be like,
Mhm.
oh, I've learned this harmonic minor lick. I'm like, okay, cool. All right, cool. All right, let's play in harmonic minor then. It's like, yeah, but I don't know what harmonic minor is. So,
Right. Right.
whereas when I was learning, you'd get like a tab book for
Mhm.
an album, and I would
Yep.
just learn the songs from it. Do you know what I
Yep.
mean? Or
Yep.
or you would learn your scale, you'd learn your open chords, and then you'd go from there. And there's like a sort of stepping thing because I didn't
Mhm.
have all these things being thrown at me 24/7.
Sure. Sure.
Like it's hard for students to find like where to learn or what to learn. I've had
Mhm.
so many students where they come to me more just for guidance on how to learn themselves
Oh, that's a good
rather than
point. Yeah. Mhm.
teach, right? Because it's like there's so much online. I don't know. So they're looking at, well, this person said play a bar chord like this, but then this person said Hendrix uses his thumb. So what do I do?
Right. Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Whereas we would just learn a bar chord and then years later been like, oh, I'll just do my thumb
It's,
because
it's how it went with me. Yeah.
but it was never like it's not how I learned it. Do you know what
Mhm. Yep.
I mean? So yeah, so going back to the live thing, I think it's really important that like playing live and having that creative output in front of people is still really important.
Sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. So speaking of the guitar lessons, right? I mean, give the people the information on how to get in touch with you if they wanted to take lessons from you, because you have this whole
Yes.
program, right?
It's sort of. I'm working on it. So my background teaching, I've taught for like I started teaching maybe like 5, 6 years ago. Like the odd lesson during jobs. I used to be this alienates some people, but I used to be a police officer, believe it or not.
Okay.
Which catches a lot of people off guard because I'm not intimidating in the slightest. Do you know what I mean? But in the UK, the police thing is very different to the States. So I appreciate
Sure.
a lot of different
Sure.
politics around there. So, um, but yeah, during lockdown and stuff, I'd started doing the odd guitar lesson. Someone found me on Facebook and things like that. And then over the last few years, when I left the police and did some other odd jobs, I was searching for like, well, what do I like? I didn't feel like I had a career. Do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Because I felt
Yeah.
disappointed with the music, and I was like, well, how do I actually make a living out of this, or how do I make more of a living in general? Do you know what I
Hmm.
mean? Because
Hmm.
I didn't get paid well to be in the police. You don't get paid well working in retail or services or hospitality, or
Right.
even graduate programs now aren't paying amazing. Do you know what I mean?
Sure. Yep.
And I've always loved the idea of being self-employed. That's always appealed to me. So then teaching naturally, after having a chat with my dad, seemed like, well, that's something that people are paying you a premium for 2 or 3 times a week. Why
Hmm.
not try and push it? Do you know what I mean? And try and grow it.
Yep.
I think when you're 20, 21, you're like, oh, I don't want to be a teacher. Do you know what I mean? You have that sort of thing. It's also like, what do I have to give to the world at 21?
Right.
I don't
Right.
know. I don't know how to teach. There's a
Yep.
lot of people that teach things, but they're not teachers. Do you know what I mean? Which
Hmm.
is why people like
Agreed.
Pomo coming back are amazing because
Hmm.
he is a teacher that happens to teach guitar. But
Yep.
he could teach you about food and it would still be informative. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right? It's whatever it is.
Yep.
It's how
Yep.
you communicate with people. Um, so that grew and grew and grew, and then I did it in different places, schools, local councils, studios and stuff. And then the last year or so is where I've been completely like self-employed with it. I've
Nice.
rented some spaces locally for doing in-person lessons, do a few online ones. So if people want people in the UK and the southeast, well, in-person lessons I teach in Buckinghamshire and Hertfordshire.
Hmm.
Um, I also do online stuff pretty much every day of the week. Like, there's
Okay.
not really many days where I'd say no, I'm not doing a lesson.
So
Weekends I do.
you've got like a new lesson posted on Instagram or YouTube or something like that. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, yeah. Or people can contact me and do like a Zoom like this,
Oh, okay.
do a
And
face
that's
one to one.
what's that called? Frenchie's Music School or something?
Yeah. So the page I was launched is Frenchie's Guitar School,
Frenchie's
like
Guitar School. Okay.
FRENCHIES Guitar School, Frenchie's Guitar School. Because I was trying to think of more of a brand, and this is where I'm trying to grow that now. Is going to be the
Mm.
next phase because it's teaching in person is amazing, but there's only so many hours in the week, right? It's like
Sure.
an eighth day, it would be great, but there isn't.
Mm.
So I'm currently searching for a premises to get as my own, as like a business, like a little unit or something.
Yep.
And then I want to turn that into basically what I have here at home, but I can't have people around the house as my parents here and my family, and it's not fair on
Hmm.
them. And also, I think it's good to differentiate work and
Oh yeah,
I don't
absolutely.
want people coming in the house and kids, so it's just messy.
Yep.
So I'm hoping to get my own unit and set that up and then film content. And I'm currently trying to plan out what kind of content I'll make
Hmm.
and set up like a Patreon and stuff like that. Um, and it's really if people want to learn to play like me. Do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
It's not like here's a step-by-step guide of how to use the guitar because you can
Right.
find that, right? It's
Right.
there's a million people doing that. It's like for people that come across my playing or and think, oh, I want to learn how to play like that kind of style, which is that
Hmm.
sort of heavy rock blues kind of thing.
Yep.
But I've also done a lot of theory and what's the word? More advanced electric playing and blues playing and
Okay.
harmonic stuff like that. Because I think there's the theory is actually quite interesting, but it turns a lot of people off.
Sure. Sure.
I don't believe this thing that knowing more theory makes you a worse guitar player or musician. I think that's kind of nonsense. But that
Yeah, no, I agree. A lot of people say, "Oh, well, you get bogged down in the theory; it kind of stifles your creativity." I don't believe that at all. I think you need to know everything that the guitar can do so you can maximize your creativity.
yeah, so the guitar lessons people can contact me through Instagram. My Instagram is Sam French Guitar. It's the same on YouTube. It's the same on Facebook. It's the same on TikTok. And then on my page there is a link to the guitar school, Frenchie's Guitar School, and the reason for making a separate page for that is that I do post some teaching content on my main page, but my main page it's my only page, right? So I
Sure.
don't have a page like a private page or a personal page. I'm not a big fan of just having social media for the sake of it.
Yep.
You know, um, and so sometimes it's hard to filter through that, right? I
Yep.
think something that's really hard with social media that I know I struggle with is I've got quite a lot of different interests on guitar, right?
Yeah.
So some days I'll pick it up and I'll want to play Metallica.
Hmm.
Then other days I'll be like, well, I want to play like Robin Ford, or I
Right.
want to play John Mayer, or I want to play acoustic stuff. Like,
Hmm.
I'm not, me personally, I'm not like a straight inline guitar player. Like I
Right.
see people like Philip Sace. Do you know Philip Sace? The
Uh, well,
like
I do
really
know
heavy
that name.
guy. Or Jared James Nichols, if you
Oh
know.
yeah. Well, I see Jared James Nichols follows you along with Joe Bonamassa as well. You've got some pretty high profile followers.
Yeah, which is really cool, man. Which is really cool. Um, but those guys have a very distinctive, like you know what you're gonna get, right?
Yeah.
The
Sure.
moment they
Yep.
pick up a guitar, you know it's coming out.
Yep.
Whereas I think I kind of do, but I also sometimes like you don't know what I'm gonna play. Like I
Right.
might pick up my Ibanez and play Joe Satriani English
Sure.
stuff or whatever, but
Mhm.
then I might pick up my acoustic guitar and play some bluegrass. I don't know it
Yeah.
gets
Yeah.
very bad. So then, if you want to learn lesson stuff as well, um, I thought, okay, well, let me make something independent so people
Hmm.
can specifically just look at it for lessons. And I try and post clips with my students.
Yep.
Like, there's a lot of little kids on there. Now, I've got students that are 6, I've got students in their 60s. It's a
Hmm.
mixed bag. Um, and I think playing with people is the best way to learn. Had a disagreement with a teacher I worked with a couple of years ago, who was very much like students come in and they learn grades. I don't know how it works in the States, but there's a grading system in the
Yep.
UK at least where you have like grade 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Yep.
You can get a diploma, they can get a degree, and then
Sure.
I don't know, whatever else. And I never did grades as a kid. That's not how I learned. And I do teach it if parents and students want it. You know, if a student comes to me or a parent and says they're applying for high school, secondary school, and they need this qualification to show they can play at a certain level, sure, we'll do it. For me, it
Right.
kind of turns people off because I don't think that's what music's about.
Yep.
I think I want kids to come to a lesson and say, "Oh, Sam, like, even like I love Taylor Swift. I want to learn this Taylor Swift song," and that happens, right? Like and that's great. I've never moaned about like teaching someone Taylor Swift, just teaching them Dream Theater. Yeah,
Right.
what's
Right.
fun then is like I had a kid the other week that was like, "Oh, I want to learn uh, Pride and Joy by Steve Ray Vaughan."
Oh, nice. Yep.
I'm like, this is going to be great. Do you know what I mean? Because then I get to learn it while I'm with them. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Yep. Yep.
And the more you do it, your ear gets better, right? Where
Sure.
I'm not the greatest reader in the world, but I have a pretty good ear, so I can hear a song, work it out in a minute or whatever,
Nice.
which is cool. So you learn these things. But when you stick a textbook in front of someone and go, okay, let's turn to the page with the scales and all that, like Christ, like if I'm bored out my arse playing it, I know they are. Do you know what I mean? It's just like
Yep.
Jesus.
Yep.
So I don't push that too much. I try and play with the students, and that's where that teacher I disagree with, because his was like you kind of you're just jamming with them.
Oh, I see.
And I'm like, but that's how it should be. Like whether
Right.
it's a drum kit or like I've got an electric kit here, when I'm at a teaching studio, or especially when I set up my own place, when I get the premises, hopefully soon, having the electric kit and a keyboard is going to be fundamental, and a bass. Do you know what I mean? I want the whole thing there because
Sure.
it's so useful. Do you know
It
what I mean?
is.
I've got one or two bass students. I don't claim to be an amazing bass player, but I can get people through the, to a point that they're playing. If you're a bass player, you can either sit and play with a metronome, which is what everyone has, or if you're with someone, to play with someone playing drums,
Yep.
it's a whole different game.
It's so important to feel it, to feel the energy from the other players,
It's huge. So I can get by on drums and bass and that, and it's in piano. I can do a bit of keyboards and piano, and then the piano for explaining theory, right? Because you can. The guitar isn't clear
Right.
where things are. It's
Yep.
like if you know, you know, but if you don't know, it's like,
Yep.
well, what do you mean that I can play E in 5 different places? That's confusing.
Right.
But this E, it's like 12th fret on the E string is the same as 7th fret on the A string, which is the same as 2nd fret on the D string. Why? Like they're not just E, they're the same E. Do you know what I mean? So then try to explain that is hard, or explain a triad, right? You can't explain to someone the triads in a blues, 1, 2, 5, and then a dominant chord is a minor 7 in there.
Yeah.
But if you get a piano, you just go, there's C, there's a third note, there's a fifth note, that's a major chord.
Yeah. Lower the third one, and you've got a minor chord. Like it's laid out right in front of you.
Exactly. So useful, and it comes back to that thing that you're learning music. You're not learning the guitar. You're learning music. The guitar is your form of communication, right? So that's where then on the page I try and post clips of me jamming with students.
Nice.
And things like that. And I think people seem to get a buzz out of that, and give people an idea of what to expect if they come for a lesson. I will be posting a lot more like actual like lesson tips. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
At the same time, I'm not a fan of clickbaity crap, so I'm not just gonna be like, here's a guitar hack number 1. You know what I mean?
I've full disclosure, I've tried that a couple times on my YouTube channel, and I had one video get, some traction. I think 13,000 views or something like that. But like I couldn't keep up with it. I couldn't come up with the creative clickbaity titles, and I couldn't come up with the content. Like it's exhausting. I don't know how some of those guys do it.
And you've got to kind of buy into the game a little bit, like I posted the odd like, but you can't play this kind of video. Like the old Guitar World things, where they would get they got like Jeff Loomis or Zach Wild or whatever, but you can't play this, and then just shreds for 15 seconds.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm gonna do it because people seem to enjoy when I without the Ibanez and play arpeggios.
Sure.
But it's not your creative output to the world, you know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah, that's a very good point. Yep.
And that's where I try and provide information. more than anything, because I think what can't you learn online? What's not if
Right.
I'm learning, what can't I find? And it's the same approach when teaching people in person. It's like, what's the thing that online doesn't tell you? People learn an F chord and they see a bar chord as F. They learn a bar
Mm-hmm.
chord as F. They
Right.
just see it and they're like, oh, but it plays an F, but at the third fret. Like, that's not an F chord. It's a
Right.
major
Right.
chord.
Yep.
Because you're learning it at the first fret, it's an F. If you
Mm-hmm.
play that at sixth fret, it's a B flat.
Right.
Do
Yep.
you know what I mean? And
Yep.
those are things where people are like, oh, so it's piecing the jigsaw together to play music.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always said if they have one guitar lesson, I want them to take something that they can use forever.
Right. Yeah,
Do you know
that
what I
makes
mean?
sense.
And if you can go to a pub or a bar or a jam night and you know your open chords,
Mm-hmm.
you can move them with a capo if you need. You know a major and minor bar chord and a power chord, and you know the notes on the E string so that you can move it. If someone
Yep.
says play a B minor, you're not freaking out.
Mm-hmm.
And you know first position minor pentatonic. That's it. If you can
That's
do
it.
that, you know
Yep.
the E string, you know how to play major, minor on any chord, and you
Yep.
know one scale to play around in.
Mm-hmm.
You can go and you'll be as adequate as 99% of guitar players for the
Right.
rest of your life, right?
Guaranteed. Guaranteed.
And that gets them from, oh, I'd really love to play one day in my bedroom, to they can go play with other people. Which
Right.
for me,
Right.
I'm like, that's job done. Do
Yep.
you know what I mean?
Yep. It's
Anything
perfect.
after that is your journey of discovering music for the rest of your life. But
Right.
that gets you into being an amateur musician, which is what
Right.
you want, right? In the
Agreed.
same way that if I go on Duolingo or any language app, great, I learn how to say, I want to buy a sandwich. Excellent. If you spend a month in Spain and try and integrate with people, you'll learn the essentials to get by.
Right. Right.
And when
Exactly.
you go there, you're hopefully not going to be stuck in the shit somewhere in a field. You can get help, right? And that the same thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You want to learn how to like actually use it,
Yep.
because
That's
otherwise
exactly right.
you're just floating for
Right.
years. People are like,
Yep.
I spent years trying to learn and I can't
Mm-hmm.
get out of the garage kind of
Yeah,
thing.
that was me. I mean, that was me for a long, long time until I really embraced kind of learning the theory behind it. I was always just I want to learn my favorite guitar riffs, and I would learn them using the tablature and not know really any theory behind it. And once I just said, "All right, Dave, you got to learn something," once I took that first step forward to learn a little bit of theory, then it opened up a lot more doors for me. Sure.
Sure. And you don't need to learn loads. It's the
Right.
basic understanding. And when you see someone explain it in a way that's applicable to the instrument, I think that's huge.
Yeah.
Getting a textbook isn't the answer.
Right.
And I've never learned that way very well anyway. Like I hated revising as a kid. Like for me, it's just so mind numbing just sitting there with a book, just being like reading over it again and again and again. Goes in
Yeah.
one ear and goes out the other. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Maybe that's called being a man. I don't know. Um, my girlfriend will probably say that. But when someone actually says to you, "This is a pentatonic scale. Learn the shape." Great. Now I'm going to show you how, you know, how Voodoo Child was written in this key, or how
Hmm.
this was written in this, or how you can move it. So then, if you want to play over the backing track to Stairway, you just
Right.
do it on the fifth fret. Do you know,
Yep.
it's like, okay, I can actually use it. Or
Yep.
if we learn a major seven chord, for example, it's not just here's a major seven chord. It's like, right, now let's learn, I don't know, some Amy Winehouse, and you
Right.
can
Right.
see it in the context of a piece of music.
Yep. Yep.
And then people actually start to go, okay, I can use it, I can
Yeah.
apply it. So I think that's really, really cool. Um, so yeah, that's the teaching side of it, which is really great, has become my job.
Yep.
So then, like anything, when it becomes your job, there's an element of weight to it, I guess, where you
Sure. Sure.
feel.
Hmm.
Um, my girlfriend is a nursery teacher, like she runs a nursery, and we talk about this stuff a lot. Um, and when you're teaching, it's like you're constantly emptying your cup, right?
Yeah.
It's like if you're providing like emotional support for someone or something, you're
Hmm.
constantly giving it out. And then I think sometimes you need to refill that cup in some way.
Absolutely. Yep.
I think as a musician, it's like the creative thing, right? Or sitting
Hmm.
down to just learn something new. Like I got a couple of books over my shoulder.
Yep.
One's like Americana guitar book by a guy called Stuart Ryan, who's an amazing
Hmm.
British guitar player, does a lot of the acoustic stuff like total guitar and all that stuff.
Yep. Yep.
Just learn something different at your comfort zone, or go and write some songs, which is
Yeah.
something I've neglected like so much. Where like I'll write creatively, I'll write a
Right.
riff or something,
Yep.
but I don't do anything with it or put any music out. So
Right.
you
Right.
see these other guys getting endorsements or working with brands and stuff, and you think,
Sure.
like, I can do that. Like, fine, do you know what I mean? Like, I'm doing that for
Yeah.
ages. But then you think, well,
Yep.
they've actually taken that proactiveness to put themselves out there.
Sure, sure. Well, then they probably look at you and like, well, he's got a whole like base of students, like he's doing the whole
Yeah,
teaching. You know what I mean? So they probably look at you with a little bit of sense of jealousy as well. You know, there's only so many hours in the day.
exactly, man. And it's that whole, like, comparison is the thief of joy thing. And I think that's
Mm-hmm.
really, really uh, prominent nowadays for people,
Absolutely.
don't know
Yep.
that. But
Yep.
that's where now I'm trying to be a bit creative as well. So it's like the
Nice.
teaching, doing some performing for money, where it's weddings, stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
quite enjoyable.
Yep.
It's a different kind of playing. I quite like that mental challenge of, I
Yeah.
mean, you do dead gigs and like it's like learn 40 songs in 3 days. You're like, okay, let's go. Like a lot
Yeah.
of work, but it kind of you flex a
Yeah.
different muscle.
Sure.
And then the writing recording thing, I hate recording.
Oh,
I know
really?
some people love it. Some people are like, oh, I can't wait to get in the studio. I
Yeah.
like the creative process of layering and stuff like that. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not a tinkerer. I'm like, give me the preset, just that's it. Just give me a good
Yeah.
preset. I
Right.
don't want to sit there being like the EQ needs this K and then the compressor isn't doing. I'm like,
Yeah.
someone else do that. I just
I can't really hear the difference anyway. Like if somebody says, "Oh, turn the compression up," or I don't hear a difference.
I struggle, and I don't know. Maybe I'm. Someone will tell me I'm ignorant or something, but I just it doesn't get me going. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
But
Oh,
I've got
yep.
friends that love that.
Yeah.
So
And I'm the same way. Like I've got two kids, so everything for me is on a budget. And so when I've only got maybe 4 or 5 songs released out on the platforms, and every one of them except for one have been recorded here in my apartment. One of the songs was recorded in my buddy's like basement studio.
yeah,
So everything's on a budget basically. And I don't like I wanted to learn how to record for the experience, but I've also learned I don't like it. So
right, yeah, exactly. Which is valid, right? Because then you go, that's where I'm going to outsource it for
yep,
getting
yep,
business. But the
yep.
thing that I can do, or if I can learn a bit of drums or a bit of keyboard to save me having
Hmm.
to do someone else doing that, then great,
Yep,
I can do that side of it.
yep,
But then when it comes to actual tinkering and so I'm just like, someone else do it.
yep.
And then you find that half the time it doesn't make a difference to people anyway.
Right, right.
And the
Especially
video,
the casual non-musician listener. They're not going to hear a difference. Yep.
my guitar teacher when I was a kid, his thing when he was teaching me how to write songs was like, you have to write assuming that people that listen to it don't play guitar.
Yeah.
Which I think a lot of guitar players now, this isn't throwing shade at anyone because you should write the music you like and not give a
Hmm.
shit about what anyone else thinks, right?
Yep.
So if people put that out, then that's amazing. But I find that a lot of guitar players, and maybe this is why I've been so hesitant to put music out because I'm self-critical. So many guitar players I find put music out for the sake of just having a way of playing guitar over it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Where
Hmm.
it's like there'll be these amazing shredders or like blues rock guys that can do the whole Stevie thing and all the rest of it.
Hmm.
So they'll cobble together some songs with like some generic riffs and generic choruses,
Yep.
and then it's a way to be able to just go out and play music and just shred on stage,
Right.
which is
Yep.
fine, right? Because it gets them out of the house and gets them on stage, and they
Hmm.
grow up following like that. To me, it's not like writing music because they've got something to say musically.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
You know
Yep.
what I mean? Like,
Yep.
like you look at those top guitar players and artists, and then people go, "Oh, well, this person's not as big as this person, and blah blah
Hmm.
blah. This person should be bigger. He's overrated and stuff." It's like they are huge because of the songs, not
Right.
because of the guitar playing.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
like Jimmy Page, people have mixed views on Jimmy Page's guitar playing. Think he's genius. The songs are unreal. That's why Jimmy Page is one of the greatest in my
Yeah.
opinion. It's the music. And I know
Yep.
like stuff was ripped off sometimes, right? Yeah, but everyone does that.
Sure.
It's no
Sure.
different when you look at John Williams with film scores. Like There's
Right.
so many things about him ripping off things for Star Wars and all this stuff, but
Mm.
it's the mind to go that thing from 1853 or whatever.
Right. Right.
That would sound great over the scene where this stormtrooper shoots someone. Do you know what I mean? It's like that's
Yep.
the genius of it because
Yep.
all music is taken from everywhere. Do you know what
Right.
I mean?
Sure.
You can
Sure.
have
Yep.
everything. Only 12 notes in Western music.
Yep. Yep.
So it's the songs that matter, right? And there's
Hmm.
very few guitar players, in my opinion, nowadays that are putting out great music.
Yeah.
Forget the
Agreed.
guitar playing. It's
Yep.
there's not, and that's why John Mayer is where he is. Like, there's loads of people that chat shit and are like, "Oh, well, it's boring, blah blah blah. He's just
Mm.
doing TV stuff." And it's like, yeah, but Continuum,
Right.
fucking great album. You
It
listen to
is.
like the songs are
Yep.
like my
Yep.
girlfriend likes that album. She doesn't know
Yeah.
anything about guitar. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like she doesn't
Yep.
care. But I'll
Yep.
put on Slow Dancing or In Your Atmosphere from that live album.
Mm-hmm. Oh, In Your Atmosphere is one of my favorite songs of all time. I love it.
Unbelievable. It's
Yep.
unbelievable. It's
Yep.
become like one of her favorite songs.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm listening to it being like, he's in this really cool open tuning.
Yeah.
It's
Yep.
like he's playing it while singing. You watch him do Neon, you're like, he's
Yep.
singing and playing that.
Yeah.
But
It's yep.
non-guitar people love it as well,
Right.
right?
Yep.
Whereas some
It's
of these
awesome.
guys, they are exclusively listened to by guitar players,
Mm-hmm.
which is
Oh, sure.
cool.
Sure. Yeah.
Which is cool, but it's like, okay, you're restricted,
Right.
right? You're not. To me, you're not gonna go down the history books. I
Right. Right. Yeah, and the thing is the problem with that is that like in this day and age of Instagram and Facebook and TikTok especially, right? Gary Vee calls it the TikTokification of the world, right? Like
Yeah.
everybody's just out for like that immediate gratification. What can I put in front of people that'll get me 10,000, 100,000 views, whatever? And there's like you said earlier, there's really no kind of substance behind it. There's no song behind it. It's just look at me, I'm
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. But then that gets you the initial thing,
Mm-hmm.
but then no one cares after that. Do you know what
Right.
I mean? That, like
Yep.
no one's like we're talking about a John Mayer album that came out 20 years ago.
That's
You know what
true.
I mean?
Yep.
Which
Yep.
doesn't seem like it was 20 years ago.
Right.
Like
Yep.
sort of super modern stuff. It was 20 years ago. Do
It
you know what I mean?
was.
I
Yep.
haven't listened to anything by a modern guitarist where I've gone in 20 years. I'm going to be talking on a podcast about that.
Right. Right.
I
True.
mean,
Yep.
it
Yep.
doesn't do anything for me. And you briefly mentioned Gilmore earlier on.
Mm-hmm.
Like Gilmore's guitar playing, I've seen both sides of it, where everyone goes like, "Oh yeah, you don't need to shred, man," because like Dave Gilmore didn't. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
well, I hate that. But then I've seen other people that are like, "Well, comfortably numb, he's just playing a pentatonic scale." Like Larry Carlton uses this, and I'm like, "Well, you can shut up as well, because that's just nonsense." Larry Carlton didn't write, Dark Side of the Moon, did he? So it's like, I mean, who cares? But neither of them are better. Like, it's not throwing shade on Larry
Right.
or Dave.
Right.
They're just different things, right?
Yep.
But the songs,
Mm-hmm.
I was lucky enough to see Dave Gilmore last September. A friend of mine,
Nice.
Harrison Edwards, he's drumming in the band LA Edwards, texted me and he was like, "What are you doing this Saturday?" I was like, "No, I'm just working." He was like, "Cancel your work." Flying into Heathrow he's moved to Sweden. He's like, "Flying to Heathrow, pick me up. We're going to see Dave Gilmore."
Oh my God.
Oh, okay. So I pick him up, and then we drove down to Brighton, and it was somehow, I don't know how, he'd gotten 2 tickets to Dave Gilmore's dress rehearsal for his new thing. So we're in the Brighton Centre with 500 people, and
Wow.
the tickets he got were front row.
Oh my
And
God.
it was just like a 2.5 hour dress rehearsal of Dave's new tour.
That's amazing.
And we were just, because I missed out on the Royal Albert Hall tickets, they
Yeah.
sold immediately.
Mm-hmm.
But to just be there, and it's just like they had we're maybe, I don't know, 50 to 100 feet from the stage, because on the
Okay.
main front bit they had all the space where they had all the crew and the mixing crew,
Sure.
but they had all the flight cases. Everything was out.
Oh, that's cool.
So they
Yeah.
had like the Pink Floyd World Tour 1974 flight case, whatever. And I'm just
great.
there, just like, this is the greatest experience of my life.
Yeah, man.
And man, he played, like, when he played, it's the only time I've like welled up from someone
Oh,
playing.
really? Nice.
And
Nice.
I love Dark Side of the Moon, obviously.
Yep,
Like,
sure.
best album ever. But I've never been like a diehard Gilmore Pink Floyd fan.
Mm-hmm.
But I was there, and like him doing Comfortably Numb, there was even security guards that aren't, but people are like, "Come sit here," right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
everyone
Yep.
sat there, and it was like all the lasers and him doing Comfortably
Yep.
Numb. And for me, it was like he's this is why he's one of the greatest. It's
Yeah, absolutely.
he plays
Absolutely.
the note and it speaks to you. I don't know
Yep.
why.
And it can only be one note. Doesn't have to be a billion of
Like,
them in 1 second. Yep.
exactly. And then you look at there's all this harmony and all these notes and stuff like that, and you think, why is it that just when he does it, and this is where it frustrates me, people online are like, well, he's just doing this, or he's just doing that. And it's like, yeah, but that isn't the point. The point is like there's a reason for whatever reason. When
Yep.
Slash plays a guitar solo, millions of people across the world have wanted to pick up a guitar.
Right. Right.
Guys literally single-handedly brought the Les Paul back
Mm.
from the grave. Like the guitar, not the person. For anyone,
Yeah. No, I know what you mean.
yeah, he's not that good. But like people, millions of people want to pick up from him. Gilmore, man, people hear Comfy Numb, and people just
Yep.
want to play it.
There's a magic behind it. You can't define it. You don't know what it is. It's just there's a magic behind it. That's all it is.
There
You
is.
know?
I mean, and you can get whatever gear you want. You can plug into, same as Eddie, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can plug into a Crank Marshall. You won't sound
Yep.
like him.
Yep.
You just
I,
won't.
s- I saw an interview with Nuno Betancourt, right, from Extreme, and Nuno loves Eddie Van Halen. That's his idol. And he said one day Eddie invited him over to his studio, and he had the whole rig plugged in, the Frankenstrat and everything plugged into all that stuff. And Eddie was like, "You want to play it?" And Nuno was like, "Hell yeah, I want to play it." He's like, "Finally, my whole life, I'm finally going to sound like Eddie Van Halen. Finally."
Yeah,
He plugs in. He's like, "I just sounded like Nuno Betancourt."
yeah, exactly. Which is it. That's what you're gonna do. You know,
Yep.
it's always gonna sound like you, regardless. So
Yep.
if you spend time just working on you, then you'll give something. Do you know
Yep.
what I mean?
Yep.
And the difference might be instead of a million people like it, maybe 10 people like it.
Mm-hmm.
And sadly, that might just be that's just the straw you've drawn.
Yep.
Do you know what I
That's
mean? You
it.
can't. None of these guys, I don't think any of these guys could tell you why it speaks to people.
Right.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Nobody can explain it, I don't think.
You can't. Even the guys themselves, I'm pretty sure. Like, obviously the songs is a big factor.
Yeah. Sure.
But if we're talking from a purely guitar perspective, I don't think Dave Gilmour could tell you why his playing resonates with so many people.
Right.
Or
Mm-hmm.
John Mayer,
Mm-hmm.
break it down. He hasn't really done anything specifically unique, but for whatever reason, his playing like speaks to people.
It
It's
does.
not.
Yep.
It's getting people from. And this is what I look at. It's like we all admire the guitar players that we love, but we're already guitar players.
Right.
It's like who are the ones where like it makes people who aren't guitar players want to pick up guitar.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Well, for me, that was Angus Young from AC/DC.
Right.
Like from day one, I think I was in third grade and I heard Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap. And I was like, what is this? Like I need more of whatever this is, you know?
For sure. Have you seen AC/DC live?
Probably 10 or 12 times. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, I'm
I've
jealous.
seen John Mayer, I think 8 times. I'm older than you. I'm about 20 or so years older than you. I saw Pink Floyd back in 1994 at Veterans Stadium in Philly. Yeah.
Wow.
I was way in the back. I wasn't front row, but I saw it. I was there.
Magic.
It was great. Yeah.
I saw AC/DC last year for the first time.
Yeah.
It was really weird actually. I met Brian Johnson at a car show and I was like,
Did you really?
yeah,
That's
well,
awesome.
it was a Goodwood Festival of Speed. I was with my dad because we were into our cars and stuff, and I knew who he was. I knew of AC/DC, but I wasn't like a diehard fan. And then he just pulled up, and because he's a big car guy,
Mhm.
Brian, and I was just like, "Oh, can you sign my brochure or whatever?"
Yeah.
And he did, and I was like, "Oh, cool." And years later, obviously, I'm a massive fan, and I'm like, "This." Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
yeah, I saw him for the first time last year, and it's kind of the Brian and Angus tribute act now a little bit.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, they're almost 80 years old, you know?
Yeah, but to
Mhm.
see them was still like a bucket list. I mean, it was one of the best
Yep.
concerts of my life. My dad
Yeah.
said it is the best concert of his life
Oh, that's great.
because
Yep.
of the atmosphere and those songs and
Mhm.
just everything. Do you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
just amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, the picking up the guitar for me, like Oasis was a huge thing.
Oh, yeah.
I
Nice.
don't know. I know they're not as big in the US as they are here, but Oasis are like, for me, I was born in '96. Like
Mhm.
for the '90s and early 2000s, but particularly '90s, Oasis is ingrained in the culture.
Oh, yeah. Sure. Yep.
Like
They were huge. They were even huge in the States at that time. Yep.
yeah, it's in the UK. It's such a thing that people that weren't around for it, and even I wasn't. I was born when they did the Nebworth gigs. Like it was bigger than anything. at a level where people don't really get it, because people look at like Taylor Swift, oh, Taylor Swift, but it's not like now, like everything's amplified because of social media and all the rest of it. It's like they're almost like a religion for a while. Do you know what I mean? In the UK, it's such a huge part of people's upbringing and culture that it identifies a time in politics and everything. So growing up with like Oasis in the house, that just made me want to play guitar.
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome.
Because you could learn the guitar solos as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
I didn't need it to be the craziest thing, because within 6 months or whatever, I could learn solo to learn the back and anger or live forever or whatever, and that's really cool, right?
Yep, that's awesome.
That to me makes him a great guitar player. He doesn't need to be super technically proficient, because he wrote music that has changed people's lives.
Absolutely.
Solos that are in people's DNA. So I think, that's amazing.
That's awesome.
For me, that's what it's about. So if I could ever write a song one day that 10 people go, that spoke to me.
There you go. That's awesome. Speaking of songs, do you have stuff released on the platforms or no?
Not at the moment. I am working with a couple people at the moment to try and write some songs and put some music out there. I think that's definitely on my list for this year.
Nice.
To put a creative side of things out there. But I think if people check out my stuff and my thing with posting on social media is like I try not to overproduce stuff.
Okay.
I've had the odd like viral video on YouTube or whatever where you get like 100,000 views or that. And it's like a cover of a pop song and stuff like that. But
sure.
I don't I don't edit the videos and cut and paste, or
I hear you.
You know, or record it and then mime over it. I hate that.
Yeah.
Even if it means they can play it, it's still, you're not playing it in the video, so what's the point?
Right.
Like half the time I just use my phone audio or microphone, right? Because it's like that's real guitar playing. I want someone, if they sit down with me, to be like, he plays the same as he does online. Do you know what I mean?
That's cool. That's cool.
If it's going to take me an hour to play it, to do take off, then the reality is I can't play it.
Yeah,
sure. I just don't bother. So I'm trying to do more of that, trying to get away from the so much like gear demos and stuff. Like I've done that before. I've done the pedal demos and all that, and it's that's a whole conversation for another day. We didn't set the podcast. How many guitar players have now turned their entire being about reviewing guitar pedals or doing demos?
A lot.
And it's not a review. It's like the thing, like you find me an actual guitar pedal review, it doesn't exist because they're not reviews. A review would be like, this is good, this is okay, this is a bit crap. You find me one Guitar Gear review guy that gives like a score out of 10 at the end. There is not a negative gear thing, because then they're like, well, then people won't send me shit.
Right. Yeah, it's all about the affiliate links and sponsorships and all that stuff. Yep.
Like, fuck me, man. Like, it's so boring. Do you know what I mean? It's like, and then you think, well, I can't trust what this dude says anyway, because he's got this. And then everyone's like, I've got this board and whatever. I bought a £20 Behringer SF300 fuzz pedal the other day. Sounds great. And I've got it plugged into a Boss Katana. So I've got £5,000 Strat into a £200 amp, a £20 fuzz pedal. So, yeah, I'd love a £500 Vemurum or whatever. But I've had them on demo, and I'll tell you now, it ain't worth it. But, obviously they're not going to send me anything now. I don't really care. I don't want it. I don't need it.
Yeah, right. You don't want it anyway. It's fine.
Yeah, it's like, I don't care. And you don't get paid for this stuff half the time anyway. It's just about not upsetting people.
Right.
Like, but to actually have someone that would be like, you don't need this. Just get a Boss SD1, get a fuzz bass.
Yep.
There you go. Sorted. Go in.
Are you actually implying that you need somebody to be honest on the internet? Is that what you're saying, Sam?
Yeah, that'd be nice, wouldn't it? That'll be the day. Yeah, that'll be it. Maybe that'll be my USP. That's what.
There you go.
Kind of just non-bullshit guitar.
There you go.
This is really
Sam,
fun.
Cool. It was a pleasure talking to you, man. I appreciate it. Maybe we. Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to.
All right, mate. Well, we'll stay in touch. I'll ping you a message and that, and like I said, we'll definitely stay in touch and chat online and stuff. And if you ever want to do, part 2 or whatever, then
absolutely.
We'll jump on Instagram live or something. Then we'll do it, man. It'd be cool.
Sounds good, Sam. I appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, man. That was awesome. Cheers,
Thank
Dave.
you.
All the best,
Cheers.
pal. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.